The story begins with a guy named Izumi getting ready for school. He decided to leave early because it was the first day of school. His parents were very worried because something might happen on the way, but he said that everything was fine. 7 seconds after exiting, he immediately fell. As soon as he saw his girlfriend standing at the bus stop, he immediately ran to her, joyfully shouting her name Shikimori. She noticed that the guy's morning was not very good because he looked shabby. He thought his girlfriend was very nice, but at times she was not nice at all. The girl was upset because he accidentally said this out loud. The guy began to apologize and said that these were just thoughts out loud. Suddenly the girl threw the guy into the wall, and a truck rushed past them. The guy apologized again and asked if everything was okay with her. Unexpectedly, the girl demanded to stop apologizing because she was worried about him. When they arrived at school, all the people stood near the assignment boards in the hope of being in the same class with their friends. The guy began to pray that his girlfriend and he would be in the same class. The guy began to peer at the wall with numbers, and Shikimori squinted because her eyesight was a little bad. Izumi finally saw his name and Shikimori's name. He was very happy and began to thank fate for this. Suddenly, her friend Nico ran up to Shikimori along with another friend of Hachimitsu, and his friend and Yuzuki approached Izumi. He was glad that they were in the same class together. Already in class they were asked to give their names and Izumi mixed up his name and called himself Izumi. Everyone laughed at this because last year he did the same thing. During recess, a washcloth bounced off the board and flew towards Izumi's head, but Shikimori knocked it away with one movement of her hand and it fell on her head. He brushed the chalk off her head and apologized. The girl became embarrassed and went to the restroom. His classmates approached him and asked why Shikimori chose him, because he was clumsy. Shikimori heard this and told Izumi to go to the library. On the way to the library, she asked him not to listen to those guys. Izumi pretended that he didn't even understand what was going on. After school, his Inuzuka friend approached Izumi and suggested that he go somewhere after school. He went to tell Shikimori about this, but it turned out that she and her friends were also going for a walk and decided to team up. They went bowling and bet that the loser would give the winner a treat. Izumi asked his friend to step aside to select the balls, and while they were away, Shikimori's friend invited her to play specifically so that Izumi would call her cute. Shikimori didn't quite understand why he should think so, and Hachimitsu replied that all women's weaknesses look cute. The first hit was made by Inuzuki. He knocked down almost all the pins and was angry that he didn't knock down all of them. Nico knocked down a little less pins than Inuzuka and also got angry. Hachimitsu threw the ball very slowly, but it knocked down all the pins. Shikimori wondered whether she should give in. It was Izumi's turn and he threw the ball, but it only knocked down one pin. He threw again but again knocked down another pin. It was Shikimori's turn. She really wanted to be called cute. But then Inuzuki abruptly wished her luck and she knocked down all the pins. Time after time she got the same strikes and people were surprised by it. Inuzuki and Nico were shocked because Shikimori did not leave them a single chance. After the game, Inuzuka remembered that the loser treats the winner and offered to treat her. Shikimori said that it would be better to take her home instead. They were walking home when suddenly the wind blew and the banner tore off its mount and flew towards Izumi. But Shikimori kicked the sign onto the road. He accidentally said out loud that she was cool and that he loved her and she was embarrassed. There was a sports festival at school and all the boys were sent to football and the girls to volleyball. Shikimori and her friends tied a ponytail on the side to distinguish themselves from others. Unfortunately, their matches were located at the same time and they will not be able to support each other. Already in football, Izumi had little success and was clumsy. Shikimori and Nico watched his unsuccessful attempts. Suddenly someone kicked the ball and it flew towards Izumi while he was unaware of anything. Shikimori began waving and shouting at Izumi to move away, but he did not understand them. The ball hit him right in the head and he fell. At the first aid station she was very worried about him and offered to help him with something. The guy thought that he had made her worry again. She said that his hair was very beautiful and noticed a scar. The guy replied that it was from when a truck drove into his house. She said that she would rather stay with him and hide under his blanket. Izumi was confused and embarrassed and Shikimori said she was joking. Izumi didn't like that she was teasing him. In the hall, Nico saw her opponent Kami. Nico told her that they would be worthy opponents. When the match started, many people were rooting for Kami because she was a good player. After the football match, Izumi suggested watching their friends play. Shikimori played well, but they still lost. And then Izumi decided to shout words of encouragement. After these words, Shikimori became ready to win. Shikimori played unmatched, but her opponent was not going to give up. Shikimori managed to win and Nico hugged her so that they fell. Izumi ran up to Shikimori and said that she did a great job, which made the girl a little embarrassed. After the victory, everyone rejoiced and congratulated the winners. Shikimori stood on the edge with Izumi. He said that she was very cool and he was a little jealous that she was so athletic. She was embarrassed and said that he is very cool when he tries, even if he loses. They were interrupted by a crowd of fans who asked to take a photo with Shikimori, and on Izumi they said that he was cute and shy. After the sports festival, Shikimori became popular and fans did not let her pass. Izumi and Yuzuki watched all this. Suddenly they saw Nico with a crowd of fans and also watched it. Izumi was sad that because of the crowd he could not approach Shikimori, but still she was not his property. Yuzuki was not happy with such words from his friend. But suddenly he pushed Izumi away from the window and the ball flew into Yuzuka. Izumi helped his friend stand up and examined him. Shikimori saw the two of them together and it made her angry, and the fans began to be touched by her anger. After lessons, he remembered how clumsy he was and how the Yuzuki suffered because of him. But on the other hand, Shikimori became popular and cool, and this could not but please the guy. Suddenly he stumbled and began to fall down the stairs, but someone caught him. It was Shikimori and she was angry because he wanted to leave alone. The guy explained that she was now popular and he didn't want to disturb her. The girl replied that he was the only one with whom she would like to go home. He said that he wanted to wait for her at the entrance because he was lonely. Izumi suggested that she go home and they left. At school, Yuzuki gave Izumi 2 movie tickets because he couldn't go himself. Izumi immediately decided to invite Shikimori and she agreed with great pleasure. Izumi lay on the bed and thought about what he needed to prepare. Usually all their walks ended in his failures and this time he decided to fix it. He decided to stock up on various things just in case and packed a backpack so heavy that he could not lift it. At this time, Shikimori was reading a magazine about how to appear cute. She tried on different outfits and couldn't choose. Izumi decided to leave early but discovered that Shikimori had arrived before him. He noticed her beautiful outfit and was taken aback, and Shikimori was a little embarrassed. They went to the cinema for the first time and Izumi imagined this event. But he interrupted himself with a stupid thought, which made him blush. At the cinema they were choosing a film and he was thinking about what kind of film she liked and decided to ask. Shikimori replied that she agreed to any film and was ready to rely on his choice. The guy said that she always leaves the choice to his conscience and today he decided that she would choose. She thought and chose a horror movie and Izumi was a little shocked by her choice. He imagined how, when watching, she would be frightened and would hug him in search of protection. During the film, Izumi was very afraid. He began to feel sick and tremble, but Shikimori took his hand and he felt calmer. Suddenly there was a sharp scene in the movie and Izumi screamed. After the film, Shikimori apologized for the choice of film because Izumi was scared. But the guy thanked her because without her he would have fainted. He invited her to go have a snack and they found themselves a cake. Only it cost a lot and Shikimori was already thinking about leaving. But Izumi said that he was saving money and he would be able to pay for it and besides, he had a discount coupon. He started looking for his wallet and it turned out he had lost it. Walking down the street, he apologized to Shikimori for not being able to treat her as always. Then unexpectedly he met his parents and they offered to invite Shikimori to their home. She agreed with pleasure and a hearty lunch awaited them at home. Izumi's mother dropped the tongs and they fell on a fork, which flew at the guy. But Shikimori snatched the fork with a deft movement and her parents clapped her. Her parents offered her a refill and told her to come back more often because they cook a lot. They decided to leave to give them some time alone. Izumi noticed that Shikimori was acting calmly, but he just couldn't find a place. She replied that she was visiting her loved one and was worried. The guy choked on his drink and muttered that she was cute. Dad watched all this and was touched by their relationship, which made Izumi embarrassed. Izumi fell asleep on the sofa and Shikimori decided to help her mother, who thanked her for her help and offered to look at Izumi's childhood photographs. She began to tell me that since childhood he was constantly injured, but he never worried about himself, but rather about others. She asked Shikimori not to stop loving Izumi because it wouldn't be easy for her with him because he was unlucky. Shikimori said that she does not consider him unhappy and thinks that his kindness only becomes greater from this. Mom was so embarrassed and said that she would date her herself. The father watched them and was touched by their conversation, and Shikimori and his mother were embarrassed. When he woke up, he saw that Shikimori was playing a game with his dad and they became very close friends. He decided to walk her home and apologized for falling asleep. Shikimori said that it was okay because she saw him sleeping and he was embarrassed. Summer has come and all the friends were wondering where they would vacation. Izumi was hot because he liked the cold, not the heat. Hachimitsu gave Izumi an umbrella to keep him cool. They decided to go to the beach, but Izumi remembered that he always gets burned, so he doesn't go to the beach. Yuzuki suggested going to the river because there is less sun there. A few days later, exam week began. Nico offered to go shopping, but Yuzuki was against it because they need to prepare for exams. Nico said that they needed to buy swimsuits and while the Yuzukas and Nico were arguing, Shikimori asked if Izumi would go swimming. He immediately remembered that he always burned in the sun and decided to refuse. Shikimori was a little upset and also decided not to swim. When Nico and Hachimitsu went shopping, Izumi looked at the girl's poster and marveled at her abs. This caused Shikimori to run to the store to buy a swimsuit. When Nico and Hachimitsu noticed that she was choosing a swimsuit for Izumi, they were shocked because it was very revealing. Shikimori immediately began to make excuses and Nico noticed that Shikimori was jealous. Nico began to remember the first time she saw Shikimori and really wanted to make friends with her. Nico thought about how to make friends with her, and Hachimitsu supported her as best she could. Shikimori played very well and because of this, Nico became excited and began to play better. They played very skillfully and as if for life and death. After the game, Nico approached Shikimori and invited her to have lunch together. Then Yuzuki and Izumi were preparing for exams and helping each other. When her friends arrived, Izumi immediately began asking what she bought, but she was embarrassed and didn't want to tell. After the exams, Izumi walked very sad because he did not pass the exams due to the fact that his pen did not write. At home, he lay and cried into his pillow until they called him. It was Shikimori and she assumed that he was now lying and crying into the pillow. The guy began to deny and convince her that this was not so. In fact, she called to hear his voice and he offered to talk about something. He went to the window and began to tell her about the constellations. Even as a child, he loved to watch the stars, but all the time when he and his dad were going to look at the stars, it was raining. She suggested that he go to a place where it would be cloudless and the stars would be visible. He agreed, but in exchange for taking her to the place where she wanted to see her joyful face. Shikimori said that she couldn't think of where to go, which made the guy almost cry, thinking that she didn't want to go with him. She said that she feels good with him anywhere and she is happy when he feels good. The girl said it was time to go to bed and hung up in embarrassment. The guy thought that he had detained her and she wanted to sleep. Shikimori cried into her pillow because she didn't say what she wanted. Having finished their exams, they came to the river and decided to have a barbecue. Then Yuzuki wanted to help and decided to cut the onion, but he did it poorly and was told to sit. To everyone's horror, Izumi took up the knife and began to cook. Everyone was shocked because they did not know about his ability to cook. Having prepared everything, they put the food on the fire and waited for it to cook. Shikimori specially prepared food for Izumi and he was very happy. But after trying it, he fell from the bad taste. Shikimori also tried it and also fell. Izumi decided to eat the dish because Shikimori worked hard for him. When everyone had already eaten, they wanted something sweet and then Izumi brought s'mores. Everyone really liked the s'mores and Izumi told Shikimori that he really wanted to treat her to one. Shikimori and Izumi sat by the river and enjoyed the day. Izumi noticed that Hachimitsu had a very cute swimsuit. And Yuzuki called them to swim and Shikimori left, but Izumi lingered. Suddenly he saw the girl being carried away by the current and hurried to her aid. Nico asked Shikimori when she would show Izumi her swimsuit, which made Shikimori very embarrassed. At this time, Izumi swam up to the girl and accidentally scared her so that she began to beat him. He asked her to stop and offered to take her back to her mother. Swimming up to the rocky shore, he picked up the girl and handed her a circle. But then suddenly a cramp seized his leg and he began to drown. The friends had already searched Izumi when they suddenly heard the girl scream and ran towards the sound. They saw Izumi drowning and began to panic, but Shikimori jumped into the water. She took out Izumi and brought him to the shore where they caught their breath. She began to get angry at him for not calling her right away. Friends began to worry because you could die on the river, but Izumi assured that everything was fine. The girl's mother came and began to thank her, and the girl kissed Izumi. Shikimori was infuriated by this, but Nico calmed her down because she was just a girl. They decided to go swimming and splash around further. After swimming, they went for a walk around the city where they picked out different clothes. Izumi and Shikimori decided to get some ice cream. Izumi decided to try Shikimori's ice cream, and Shikimori decided to try Izumi. But before she had time to try it, Inuzuki ate it. Then Shikimori took the ice cream from Inuzuka and ate it too, but then sank to her knees due to the cold in her brain. They started fighting over the ice cream, and Izumi became sad. In the evening they went home and found that the carriage was empty. They drove and slowly began to fall asleep. Shikimori denied it first, but quickly fell asleep on the guy's shoulder. Then Izumi himself fell asleep thinking how well he had spent the day. Shikimori woke up and saw Izumi sleeping leaning on her friend, and carefully shifted him onto herself and hugged him. After arriving, Izumi and Hachimitsu were very tired because they were not athletes. After resting, he lay on the sofa and complained of sunburn. But suddenly he saw news on TV about the fireworks festival and decided to invite Shikimori, despite the burns. He tried on his father's suit, but it was too big for him. Shikimori was learning to tie a belt and was worried that she wouldn't have time. But then her brother came and tied her belt, adding that she was clumsy. Izumi prepared in advance by taking several wallets at once. Shikimori called him from behind. She was dressed very nicely and the guy said that she was cute. They went to different events and played different games. He took some cotton candy for himself, but Shikimori decided not to take it because, as it turned out, she doesn't really like sweets. But it seems she's starting to love him because of him. They walked around the exhibitions and found a shooting gallery. Izumi offered to win her a wolf in this game, but no matter how he aimed to hit, he failed. Then Shikimori decided to give it a try and Izumi wished her luck, and the seller even offered her a free shot. Shikimori knocked down all her targets, including the wolf. The owner of the stall was shocked and almost burst into tears, but gave her the long-awaited prize. She handed it to Izumi, saying that she wanted to give the wolf to him. Suddenly, their friends approached them from behind and their girlfriends began to admire Shikimori's costume. Inuzuki suggested playing a game for a bet. Inuzuki easily caught the first fish, and Izumi immediately dropped the net. Shikimori approached and decided to compete with Inuzuki, but he was more dexterous and she didn't succeed, but the fireworks would start soon. Nico decided to play instead of Shikimori and began to beat Inuzuka. Shikimori and Izumi walked away and stopped. He wanted to take her to a secluded place, but her shoe strap broke and he had to fix it. By evening he had repaired the strap, but Shikimori had chafed his feet and he decided not to go anywhere. He told her how Dad told him about one secluded place where he took his mother. Shikimori wanted to go, but Izumi forbade her because she had chafed her feet. He wanted her to sit on his back and he would carry her to the place where everyone was watching. She tried to refuse but gave up and climbed on him. He carried her in the other direction to a secluded place. She began to struggle because it was a long way to go there and she didn't want him to strain. He calmed her down and said that he would even carry her up the stairs. They came to the bench and suddenly fireworks started going off. They sat and enjoyed the fireworks. Izumi said that last year he was afraid to invite her to this place. Shikimori replied that she had been waiting all day for his invitation and hoped to go there with him. She thanked him for bringing her here. After the fireworks ended, he took her on his back and began to descend. But he slipped and began to fall. Suddenly, his dad picked him up and sat him on his back, and his mom shone a flashlight from behind. As it turned out, they came here before Izumi and watched them enjoy the evening. Izumi thanked his father for telling him about this place and Shikimori added that the place was very beautiful. The holidays passed and the school began to hold a cultural festival and everyone was preparing for it. Izumi made the costumes and Shikimori helped with the decorations. A girl asked Izumi for help and he began to help her. Shikimori saw this and became jealous. The next day he came to school and was given number 44. It was an unlucky number but he did not lose heart. He got a lion costume, even though it didn't look like one, and Shikimori got a hare costume. He delivered food and drinks to cafes and people wouldn't let him pass, asking for photos. He slipped on a piece of paper and began to fall when suddenly Shikimori caught him. She asked him not to take on all the work. The next day, Izumi had a shift at the library and he hoped that the second person on shift would be his age. Kamiya was in the library and she was glad to see him. They met a year ago when they were on duty. Izumi asked what her class did for the cultural festival. She replied that it was a cafe and that her classmates did not want to let her go. In fact, despite her popularity, she liked moments of solitude like now. A year and a half ago, Izumi came on duty at the library and she was very friendly with him. The next day she came earlier than usual because she was busy helping others. Izumi called her very kind and she was surprised. He came out of his thoughts and invited Kamiya to leave work for him and go and rest. She said that he changed a lot after the girl appeared. She began to strongly insist that Izumi tell her about their relationship. She pressed him against the wall and began to ask how long they had been dating and who was the first to admit it. Shikimori looked for her number and Izumi's number on the board. After all, if they have the same number, the relationship will be stronger. Shikimori decided to find the person with whom Izumi had the same number and asked to switch. Kamiya very persistently sought an answer from Izumi. Their relationship began just at last year's cultural festival. They got a doubles number. He invited Shikimori to take a walk around the school and then they came across a place with photographs of those whose numbers matched. Shikimori offered to take a photo. Izumi agreed. But as it turned out, he lost his number and was very upset. Shikimori suggested finding the number, but Izumi was so upset that he gave up. The girl said that today everything will change and they will definitely find his number. They approached the photo station and started asking to take photos of them without the number because he had lost it. He was refused, but the guy said that he really needed to take a photo. The man thought for a moment and drew a number for him. They were photographed and they thanked them for this, and the man only asked not to tell anyone about it and wished him good luck. Kamiya said that this was a wonderful story, and Izumi realized that he had told a lot. Shikimori was still looking for his number in the table and could not find it. The next day, Izumi and Kamiya were talking in the library and discussing relationships. Suddenly Nico came in and asked Kamiya to leave. Shikimori stood at the entrance to the library and asked Kamiya to give her the number. She extended her hand with the piece of paper and with a little difficulty gave it back. Izumi looked out and saw Shikimori. She said that his shift would end soon and that's why she came. Kamiya suggested that he leave and she would somehow manage it herself. But the guy said that he wouldn't let her work alone. Shikimori and Nico were waiting for him in the library while the guy talked with Kamiya. Kamiya returned to her class and her classmates greeted her and were very happy. Everyone wanted to take a photo with her and thought she was very beautiful. She stood in the middle of the hall, lost in thought, until someone distracted her. She decided to go out into the fresh air to think. She thought about Shikimori because she was kind, open and honest, not like Kamiya. Suddenly Shikimori came and wanted to give her the number because from somewhere she knew that he was dear to her. She asked how Shikimori knew this. Shikimori said that it was clear from her reaction. Shikimori said that a person who loves Izumi cannot be a bad person. But Kamiya refused the number because she still wasn't going to confess to him. She began to apologize for not throwing it away right away and promised not to approach Izumi again. Shikimori tore the paper and hugged Kamiya and apologized for making her cry. Shikimori was glad that Kamiya is such a beautiful girl and she should value her emotions. The next day was Shikimori's birthday and he prepared in advance so as not to be late like last time. After the end of the festival, many were upset that they failed to win. Shikimori and Hachimitsu also celebrated, even though they lost, and Hachimitsu asked to see a photo with a number. She replied that she had lost her number, which made her friends shocked. After the celebration, Izumi decided to invite Shikimori to the park. At the park, he gave her a birthday and anniversary gift. She asked permission to open the gift now and received an answer. There was a beautiful necklace and Izumi decided to help her fasten it. She said that he had not changed at all and asked him not to change. But the guy didn't agree, because the day they met he changed and he was glad about it. And he also added that he would definitely change and become as strong as he could so that she could feel calmer. Shikimori began to cry and the guy saw her cry for the first time. He began to calm her down and she said that she would never give him up to anyone for anything. The guy was embarrassed and said that it was very late and it was time for them to go home. The day started with Izumi getting sick and asking Inuzuka to take notes. Inuzuki complained that Shikimori saw him as an enemy and did not understand why this was so. Shikimori asked Inuzuki to go with him to visit Izumi and he reluctantly agreed. Nico decided that it was not wise to send them like that and sent Hachimitsu to follow them. On the way, he wanted to ask her why she treats him this way, but changed his mind. On the way, they looked into the store and Shikimori could not choose cough drops. Inuzuki said to choose anyone and that there was no difference at all. She asked about choosing between other lollipops, but already calling him brother. There was one pack of his favorite flavor and Inuzuka immediately told her to choose that pack. And then he noticed and drew attention to the fact that she called him brother. The girl denied everything and ran to the checkout. At the exit, she handed him a bag of candy, and he was incredulous. At the exit, she jokingly said that she would take them for herself since he didn't want to, and Inuzuki began to make excuses. Suddenly, they saw Hachimitsu and she admitted that she had been following them and told what she had learned. She said that Shikimori does not have a very good relationship with his brother. When they took the medicine to Izumi, Shikimori and Nico decided to relax in the shopping center. Suddenly, they noticed Kami standing in the store and approached her. Nico suggested that the three of us go for a walk and, to her surprise, Kami agreed. After a walk in which they stopped by to look at the puppies and take pictures, then Nico did not leave for long. At this time, Kami decided to play the slot machine and Shikimori helped her with this because Kami had never played. Then Shikimori decided to try it herself and won a bunch of sweets and gave it to Kami. She was surprised by Shikimori's behavior because she was so kind. Nico began to remember how often she invited Kami to go for a walk, until the girls turned to her and asked her not to call her because she always refused. Nico approached them and discovered that they had one bag full of toys. After the store, they decided to play basketball on the court, but it was busy. The girls offered to play for the right to play on this field and they accepted the challenge. They played aggressively and quickly as if for life and death. After the victory, they decided to take a photo because it was cool. After that, they said goodbye and Kami invited Shikimori to take another walk sometime, and she agreed with joy. Kami decided to apologize for always refusing her, but she replied that it was okay because she imposed herself. Kami asked what Nico wanted to do and she replied that she wanted to know more about her. Nico started telling that Izumi and Shikimori were dating and asked if she knew Izumi. Nico abruptly stopped her and asked what changed her, because she had never smiled like that. Kami replied that she couldn't say who it was, but she was told to value her emotions and she only now realized this and that one day she would tell Nico who this person was. They ran to the train and Nico told Kami not to rush and find out her feelings. In the fall, a sports festival began. Participants were chosen by lottery. Nobody wanted to participate in the mixed relay and everyone hoped not to get there. Izumi pulled out a piece of paper and he came across a mixed relay. His bad luck was no longer surprising. Hachimitsu also got the mixed relay and Izumi started cheering her on. Then the whole group of friends also decided to sign up there to be together. They decided to practice to win tomorrow. Hachimitsu ran very slowly and quickly became exhausted, and Izumi fell almost immediately, and Hachimitsu said that they would lose. In the evening they went their separate ways to prepare for other competitions, but Hachimitsu and Izumi stayed behind. They decided to train some more so as not to lose tomorrow, and after training they were exhausted, but there was little progress. Izumi thanked Hachimitsu for staying with him, but she only replied that she was doing it for herself in order to win. The next day, Izumi hoped to show off the fruits of their training, but noticed that Hachimitsu was not in a cheerful mood at all. In the first competition, Inuzuka and Izumi lost, but their friends still praised them. Another test was throwing balls, but the basket was very high. Hachimitsu very slowly took 4 balls and threw them exactly into the basket. She came second because she was very slow, but it was still good. Shikimori praised her and the rest of her friends began to do so too. Hachimitsu was embarrassed and her mood rose, which couldn't help but please Izumi. After the break, they were preparing for the relay race and Hachimitsu said that they needed to win, which greatly surprised the others. When everyone took their positions, Shikimori took Hachimitsu's hand to support her and told her that the main thing for her was not victory, but participation. Nico ran first with great determination and came running first, but without a break. Hachimitsu ran as hard as she could, but quickly became exhausted but did not give up. When she stumbled and fell, Izumi shouted words of encouragement to her and she stood up. With broken knees, she ran to Izumi and asked her not to let her down because she wanted victory for the sake of her friends. Izumi was running last, but hoped to overtake at least one participant. But suddenly his sneaker fell off and, remembering Hachimitsu's words, he threw off the second sneaker and continued running. Izumi understood that he would not be able to overtake and hoped that Shikimori would be able to overtake everyone. Shikimori, charged with motivation, ran very quickly and overtook everyone, and people were surprised at her speed. The Inuzuka looked at Shikimori and seeing her look, he realized that if he didn't get there first, she would be angry with him. Inuzuka ran fast and was able to overtake the first participant and came to the finish line first, bringing his team first place. They all rejoiced at the victory and praised each other. The administrator approached them and gave them a flag so they could take a photo. Some time ago, Izumi was late for his exams and was hit by a cyclist on the way. Because of this, during physical education he sat on the bench and did not play. Friends invited him to join their group on an excursion and he was happy about it. After school, they went for a walk and suddenly a teddy bear that flew from the balcony fell on one of them. Izumi thought about this and decided to refuse the excursion because everyone around him was unlucky. Shikimori was in the store with her brother, whom she was not very happy about. At the clothing store, she couldn't choose good clothes for her date with Izumi. She began to remember how he invited her to take a walk in the park and showed her a beautiful video showing her the park. Shikimori really liked the park because she wanted the same date as in that video. Without choosing anything, she dragged her older brother away from the girls who wanted to hang out with him. He said that it was a shame because his younger sister took him away. She began to imitate him and he called her not nice. Shikimori plunged into memories of how she defeated a guy in karate, but her brother called her skill not cute. And other kids called her cool because she defeated a high school student. At home, my brother said that he was leaving karate and my mother asked if she would quit this activity. Shikimori replied that she had friends there and they would be glad to see her. At school, a girl was pushed by a boy and Shikimori came to the girl's defense. The guys called her creepy, but they were afraid to fight and left. After karate, her brother told her that she has no individuality and she only repeats after everyone. He told her not to try to follow him and her mother, but to find something to do herself. At school, a girl gave Shikimori a manga, and after reading the manga, Shikimori was inspired. In karate, Shikimori defeated her opponent and qualified for the national tournament. The children began to support her because she could have qualified for the national tournament itself. But Shikimori decided to quit karate in high school because she wanted to become a cute girl. At school, she saw Izumi whose admission ticket was blown into a tree by the wind. Shikimori decided to help him and pick up the ticket from the tree. Izumi began to dissuade her because it was high there and she could get hurt. She climbed anyway, shocking Izumi. She took out his ticket and the guy was very grateful to her. Shikimori thought about it, because she ruined everything and created the impression of a tough girl, not a nice one. After some time, Izumi found her and reminded her who he was. He wanted to thank her for helping him, because he couldn't have done it on his own. He said that he was very glad that they met again, and quickly realized what he said and became embarrassed. He started to walk away but she grabbed his hand and asked his name. She came out of her memories and her brother asked what she bought and was surprised that she didn't buy anything. She noticed a very expensive lipstick and wanted to buy it because it would make her invincible. In the evening, when she began to get ready, she noticed this lipstick. She remembered that in the car her brother told her that he was running to the toilet and bought lipstick instead. She put on lipstick and mentally thanked her brother and left the house. They met in the park and they went into a costume shop. Izumi wanted to give her the toad hoops, but she chose a black jacket with a skull on it. In line, Izumi told her about this fairy tale and Shikimori liked it. He asked what fairy tale was her favorite and she replied that the ugly duckling. He said that she was creepy, and Shikimori simply said that she loved all kinds of horror. He said he wanted to find out more about her. He asked what she dreamed about and she answered that it was about love and said that her dream had already come true. The line went by unnoticed because they were together and they weren't bored. They sat in the trolley and were shown pictures from the fairy tale about the Sleeping Beauty, and Izumi fell asleep. She wanted to kiss him to wake him up, but they had already arrived and she didn't succeed. She liked the ride and even had fun with it while in line. She took his hand and they ran off to see other rides and other activities. Already in the evening they arrived at the restaurant but were told that their table had been accidentally given to another guest. Izumi already thought that everything was lost, but the girl offered him a table in another compartment. They were sitting in an expensive VIP section and Izumi didn't know how to properly eat in such a section. Shikimori said that when she spends time next to him, the whole world around her looks brighter than usual. The guy was so embarrassed that he stopped tasting the food. She asked what he saw in her eyes and he replied that he saw himself. She said that this is right because she only looks at him. He said that for him she is the most beautiful in the world. After the restaurant, she said that she wanted to repeat the scene from the park advertisement and Izumi easily agreed. She was embarrassed and surprised because he agreed to this so easily. He took her hand and asked how to lead her correctly. He thought that she meant the moment where the old people walk hand in hand. She said that she would like to be in a secluded place and they went to the boat. The guy only then realized that she meant another scene from the advertisement. Izumi suggested taking a photo and suddenly the lights were turned off and it was dark. He thought that everything had gone as bad as always and asked if Shikimori was scared. He turned on the flashlight on his phone and apologized for the fact that everything turned out as usual. He said that he saw nothing but her, and she said that she did not want to wake up from such a dream. Izumi wanted her to stop worrying and kissed her on the cheek. The light turned on and she lay down on it and wanted to lie there a little longer because now she was happier than in her dream. In the morning he sat at school and complained to Onizuka because he only now realized what he had done. And Nico and Hachimitsu tried to ask Shikimori what happened. Because she was silent, Hachimitsu assumed that she was kissing Izumi. Nico screamed and asked for more details. Shikimori said that Izumi kissed her on the cheek, and Nico was upset because she thought it was something more. After this, Shikimori began to get angry because she was too assertive and Izumi began to worry. Onizuka helped Izumi unravel and supported his friend.